Hola queridas y queridos, mi nombre es Adame, soy editor de WARP y hoy vengo a presentarles una entrevista con la agrupación británica WARP.la. WARP.la es un proyecto muy interesante que normalmente combina elementos de música introspectiva, de ensoñación, como lo puede ser pues justamente el dream pop y el shoegaze, con segmentos, con elementos agresivos que incluso pues pueden tomarse en cuenta como gritos, guitarrazos, ritmos post-grunge e incluso post-hardcore. Es una agrupación que combina dos elementos completamente distintos entre sí, dos emociones con conflictos, porque tienen la necesidad de narrar historias, de crear como una atmósfera de cuentos de hadas, de los cuentos de hadas clásicos, que no solamente es como lo bonito y lo detallado y lo, lo imaginativo, sino también lo violento y lo grotesco. Ellos llegaron a la fama internacional en 2015 con su álbum debut My Love is Cool, que fue bastante bien recibido, pero que no se comparó a la aclamación crítica que recibió su secuela Visions of a Life, que se estrenó en el 2017 y que incluso ganó el premio Music Mercury Prize a Mejor Álbum del Año. Ellos tardaron un muy buen rato en lanzar la continuación a ese éxito, 4 años para el estreno de su tercer álbum de estudio, mismo que están promocionando ahora mismo, llamado Blue Weekend, que es un álbum un poquito más tranquilo, pero en el cual es más fácil profundizar en la necesidad literaria de este grupo por narrar historias que son un poco más complejas de lo que acostumbramos a escuchar en una canción. Entonces, espero disfruten de esta entrevista que tuvimos con los 4 miembros de Wolf Alice. Well, it's pretty nice. I have here your last album this morning. I think it is very well. It has all the characteristics that made Wolf Alice such an interesting band. It is very eclectic, and it is very nostalgic in a way that I call that it's like looking forward to romanticize a little bit teenage years, right? That's one of the things that I have always have a feeling with the music of Wolf Alice. I want you to maybe talk a little bit about this idea that I have, that this is music that tells a lot about those teenage years and youthful.
Maybe we just haven't grown up. We're all about over 10 years away from being teenagers now, so maybe that's a concern.
Maybe. But I think also that it is pretty, how do you say, I think it is very pure, the way that you manage music, and to be pure is also to be kind of naive and sweet in a way, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I think what you said is probably sums it up quite a lot. I think there's a lot of emotion in our music, and a lot of it is about human emotion that, you know, anyone can experience. And I think when you're a teenager, you have a magnifying glass on your emotions. Yeah. You kind of feel emotions too much. So maybe that's why it gives you that kind of like nostalgic, naive energy as well. But it's emotional for sure.
I want to know a little bit about the meaning behind their record name, Blue Weekend. The first thing that I, how do you say, like think about it is like make a reference to this Blue Monday, the saddest day of the year. I want to know like if it has something to be with it.
I said this one. I want someone to do this one.
Oh yeah, well, yeah, it's not a direct reference to Blue Monday, but it comes from a moment when we were making the album and we were in a taxi, and Ellie was talking about going to see this forest the next Blue Weekend, which was close to where we were recording, and it just had a nice ring to it, this phrase, and yeah, it was saying like in the record, it's kind of got different reflections of happy and sad and ups and downs, which you can also kind of find in your average weekend at our ages, especially as well, like in your 20s. I think my whole life have been defined by my weekends, you know.
Really?
And there's yeah, it's happy and sad, isn't it? Blue. It can be taken either way, depending on how you choose to view it. And yeah, kind of related to where we were coming with the songs this time around.
What were you making on that space when you say blue weekend? This is like a blue weekend. What was the input to say that word?
Well, I mean, I think Joel's just kind of summed it up. It's like that blue, the notion of blue as a color can be, you know, you've got blue being, I'm feeling down, I'm feeling blue. And then the other side is like blue skies, which is like, you know, happiness and kind of positivity. And I think the narrative of a weekend can have both of those things. You know, Friday night might be a little bit blue on the old sad side, and then Saturday morning might be blue on the old blue skies side. So that like kind of yin and yang of things, and like that broad scope of emotion that can be encapsulated in a small space of time, which I suppose is what you're doing in an album, which is just kind of short. This is our shortest album. Is why we wanted it to kind of represent what we'd made, because it has sadness, happiness, and all the other good stuff in between that.
Yeah, that's pretty nice. Hey, Jonathan, now that we are discussing this here, and being that you have like a lot of books behind you, I am pretty sure that Wolf Alice have a lot of influence on short stories, on novels, on well, a lot of literary influences. Being that also Wolf Alice is the title of a short story, right? So I want to know what was the input of literature put into this record. If you maybe made some songs based on some stories, what do you think is the how do you say, like the paper of literature on your band? Do you think it is something pretty important?
Yeah, I think reading is kind of an easier way to kind of get inspired if you're, especially, you know, if you're touring or, you know, confined. It's just an easy way to be transported somewhere else, and, you know, to lift other people's ideas for your own. So if I ever feel a bit stumped for ideas, you know, I often look back at my notes of things that I've wrote down that have inspired me whilst reading, or you know, watching films, or even just having conversations with people. So it's important to us in that way. But I don't know how. I think in the past, yeah, we've wrote songs that are like directly about like a film or a book that we've read. But, you know, I think in this one, it's more so that like just maybe, you know, words or phrases or ideas and stuff from other people might have inspired us, but we've not directly kind of made a music version of a book or something like that, if that makes sense.
I have always think that you are like a interesting front woman in a way, because you are not always singing, right? Like some of the approach of the way that you tell things on songs are not really like singing. You are like paraphrasing, or maybe not like reading, but like preaching on some songs, right? I want to know a little bit about this focus that you have on some songs, on some pieces, as being that it is weird in a really good way for a band of this type of rock band.
What do you mean, kind of like the way in which I deliver the words and stuff?
Sure.
Yeah, I think like I'll sometimes find when a song for me is like, when you're starting to write a song and it's like being driven by the words, that often then your kind of melody kind of is, or the melody often kind of confines you a little bit. So if you have a lot to say, or you keep getting ideas and stuff, it's easier to squeeze them into almost spoken word in a way. So that's often why I've returned to that kind of way of delivering stuff. Also, melody is really hard. To write an original melody is really hard. So.
You used to write poetry before focusing on music?
Me, I've definitely tried, but I kind of suck at it, to be fair. Yeah, I was in poetry. I did go to poetry club and write poems about all the boys I fancied at school.
Oh, that's pretty nice. That's pretty romantic also. Well, the name of the band is WARP.la, and well, I have read the short story. I think it's pretty terrific. It's about a girl who is not quite human because she was raised by wolves, right? But the thing that separates her to be human in a way when she become to be a part of society was this idea that, well, she couldn't be really like conscious about her death, right? That was the thing that separates her from the rest of humanity. I want to know, like, from your point of view, do you think that short story represents pretty much what is the speech and the music of the band?
Probably not, no. I think regardless of whether you've read the story or not, just like even the name, like WARP.la, is like juxtaposition. Yeah, something. Which is like, I feel like we have two sides to us. Like we love to rage, but we also are very sensitive, and
Sure.
So that's just kind of, without even reading the book, it was like resonated. Do you know what I mean? And the themes of the book, you can apply them to us maybe, but I don't really think that's what we were thinking.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Theo?
Yeah, I agree. I think the notion of that juxtaposition, the two words, that feral thing that always comes up when people talk about us, the nature of it being like a girl's name, Alice, is kind of an obvious thing to draw a link to. And then there are some themes that we kind of probably share in that book, especially in the earlier incarnation of WARP.la, with Ellie being with, starting a band with one of our best friends. But I think it's just kind of like all band names. It was a band name that was chosen, and we've grown, and it's, that's just what happens. I don't know what you would ask the Arctic Monkeys in this situation, or someone like that. Or I don't know if they're cold and love primates.
That's pretty nice. Well, it was like a long wait from your last album to this new record. I felt like it was 3 years. It's like pretty much a long time for a band of your profile to wait for a new album. I want to know, like, what if you find a little bit difficult to maybe like keep following with the success of your last one? What was the reason why maybe it was not immediate or sooner the launchment of this record?
Well, I think we toured this second album for a very long time, which accounts for kind of half of that time difference, and I think the other half of that time difference is due to the fact that we didn't have a gap between the first and second records.
Sure.
We took 3 months off to kind of arrange the record and then went to record it. So we hadn't taken any time off, really, any time to reflect. And I think one of the benefits of the relative success that the last two albums have had meant that we could afford ourselves a little bit more time in writing and kind of making something really special. So we were, we wanted to make music, we wanted to make the album, but we also didn't want to rush it. And obviously the coronavirus, if the coronavirus wasn't here, this record would have been out a while ago. But, there are all types of complications, which has made it more difficult for the album to come out earlier. So lots of different things, really.
Okay. Do you think that quarantine helped you, like, in a way to think more about this record and to maybe work more intensely on it?
Well, we were quarantined. We were in the studio during the first big lockdown.
Sure.
So, yeah, definitely. You know, not being able to go out, not being able to have a Friday night drink, or kind of even escape the four walls of the studio, because we were, you know, locked down in there, meant that kind of every minute you were in some way thinking about the record. And there were a lot less distractions than there usually are. So yeah, 100%.
What did you
Which I hope
think?
is
If you would need to describe the evolution of WARP.Alice on this record, how would you describe it?
Group of people steadily getting better at their instruments and honing their songwriting craft, when at the beginning they had a very good grasp of songwriting and a big lack of ability on their instruments.
What do you think, Ali, if you would need to describe the evolution of WARP.Alice on this record?
I don't know, it's a good question. I'm not really sure how I'd describe it. I feel like, I don't know, I just think we're just bolder, but like in a kind of, it's quite subtle ways to me, really. I feel like the foundations of WARP.Alice haven't really changed. We're just almost just more confident in that those foundations were good in the first place. So I just feel like, I don't know, we're not changing, we're just becoming more confident in ourselves, maybe.
Sure. Well, just to close the interview, well, the first thing that popped out to me about this record is like the change of focus on the art style of the records. The last two ones were like very fantastical in a way. I think fantastical on the way that it reminds me of fantasy books or fantasy films. And on this new one, you have, for the first time, your faces being involved on the artwork. And I want to know just why this change? What is the focus of the artwork on this new material?
We were so proud of it, we wanted to put our faces on it.
That's incredible. Yeah. Well, I think that's going to be everything. Thank you very much for your time. I am sure that this album is going to be a real success, and I hope to see you here in Mexico for the first time, right? You have never been here.
Yeah, we've
never been.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed, man.
Yeah, you need to come. Yeah, you have a lot of fans here, and well, they're pretty much like intense.
Great.
Can't wait to meet him.
Great to meet you. Bye bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye.